Welcome back to another episode of the Skits and Giggles podcast. I am Pascal, and I'm joined by my co-host Bryson. How's it going, buddy?
That's right, Skigglers. They couldn't stop us. We're back. I'm good, Pascal. How about you?
Yeah, not bad. Well, it's obviously been a while since we recorded, so I think the first thing we want to say is thank you very much for all the kind messages, comments that we got after the last episode with Dave Spielman. I think we also speak in the name of Dave when we say a really big thank you. We were really, really floored by the response and the feedback that we got on this one. If you haven't heard it so far, then you can find it in our archives. It's episode 39. Bryson, what did you get any feedback on that, or did you have any comments?
You know, when we sat down with Dave, I really wanted to just get to know him because of all the things I heard him involved with. But it turns out we dove a little bit deeper and really touched me. And I was thinking, you know what, this is going to touch so many people. And there you go, it did. It was a big success, and this is the kind of thing that I was driving for right from the very beginning. I mean, I didn't know how to use the tools that we had to create that kind of content, but it was rewarding. So onward and upwards.
Awesome. Well, as you said, it's been a while, and we actually haven't actually talked to each other in a while. So what have you been up to, buddy?
Yeah. Well, since I last saw you, I got a little bit sick. Been on the road to recovery. Then I got a little bit sicker, and then I'm doing better. My voice is a little rough right now, as maybe you can feel through the mic through the headphones. But yeah, I've been off the bike, of course, because I'm trying to recover. I'm trying to just take it easy. I've been doing like small bike rides, just like to town, and but nothing like no athletic endeavors. But it's also I kind of feel like a bit of in a rut. Like, yeah, do I want to continue biking? Is it like a sport for me? I don't know. You kind of had all these depressing thoughts about not being a cyclist anymore, like not enjoying cycling, and if I want to continue, and it kind of sucks.
Oh, that's
So,
terrible. That must be like a finale depression.
you know what? Maybe, probably. I don't think you can get any better than that. And we're gonna dive into that a little bit later. But when I started biking, I got the bug real hard, and I was like shop rat. I was like always scanning websites, checking out new models, always waiting for like the Eurobike pictures and all that stuff. And then a few years later, I basically just like stopped riding. It coincided with a really heavy school workload and doing that sort of thing. So it's understandable, but I pretty much like stopped. And then when I got a job, I also didn't continue. But a few years later, I picked it up again and I went back at it real hard. And I was like, found my new passion, new fire for it. Not just for the riding, but for the community, actually. That was one of the big things that brought me back. Probably the thing that brought me back was just the super cool community I found with North Shore Ride in North Vancouver. And yeah, it just kind of continued on when I left. And when I came to Switzerland, it was the thing. It's like, that's what kept me going. It was like meeting cool people, shredding, seeing new things, like all this new experience. And so I had a hiatus there, and it was, let's say, the dark age, right? So I hope I'm not falling back into one of these dark ages. And I think, yeah, maybe with your help and the help of some listeners, it's not going to be that way. But that thought had crossed my mind. Yeah.
Oh, that's a bummer. Well, I hope we can get you out of this rut today, and hopefully over the next couple of weeks. There's a couple of things we want to talk about today. We've been riding. I've been away. There's another thing that I want to talk about today. If you follow us on our socials, you might have seen that I have launched a fundraiser in support of the Ukraine Relief Foundation, run by my employer, UBS. And I'm actually raffling off one of my bikes. So what that means is you can buy tickets, and with each ticket you get a chance to win a bike. And of course, if you buy more tickets, you have a bigger chance to win my bike. And the goal is to raise as much money as possible through the sale of tickets to be able to donate to the Ukraine Relief Fund. And so far, very impressed with how it's going today. So that's the 9th of June. there's about 500 tickets sold. The By the time this will be up on the pipes in the internets, there will be a bit over a week left. So if you're interested to support this initiative, then just head on over to our website and find the link Ukraine, and there you can find all the details, how everything works, and how you can buy the tickets.
Well, Pascal, I want to ask, just on a serious note. I mean, it's a crisis, and I know you were quite affected, but maybe if you don't mind being a little bit more personal, what were the real factors that led you to creating this charity or this fundraiser effort?
Well, through my work, I have been involved relatively firsthand just with the financial implications of this crisis. But through the work, I also follow the news flow and TV pictures and newspaper pictures and all of that sort of stuff pretty closely. And I think the one thing that has always weighed heavily on me is kind of seeing all the families that are being ripped out of their normal life and children that are being um, torn from their families. And just as a father of two myself, I see myself. I look at our situation. We're both beginning of our 40s. We have a career, jobs. We have kids. They're in school, leading a pretty normal life in the grand scheme of things. And from one day to the next, you can be torn out of this situation just because of this conflict or any other conflict for that matter. But in this particular case, obviously, because of an aggressive opponent. And, wherever you stand in this conflict, I think you can feel for the families, you can feel for the children. And that's why I wanted to do something um, with what I can. And I always like when I do something. When I've done 5 years ago, I've done a fundraiser for Africa, which is obviously a slightly different context. It was also in relation to a bike race at the time, and this time I wanted to do also something with the bike. And then obviously um, my participation in Trans Madeira was coming up, and then I thought, what can I do in the context of that? And then I thought, why don't I just raffle off um, my race bike? And the raffle idea, I stole that blatantly from Paul Aston, who's funding his whole independent review business with raffle sales. But it's obviously a very neat way to enable a lot of people to be able to fund a project. You can get involved from as little as 5 francs, in my case, which means that if I find 2,000 people that buy a ticket for 5 francs, then I get together 10,000 francs that I can donate. And also, my employer has committed to double whatever I donate. So for every franc I donate, my employer will donate another franc, which I think is and also another attractive feature of, of my initiative. Um, but yeah, so that is the reasoning behind it, and I hope that those funds can go to the cause that I intend to. So right now, this Ukraine Relief Fund is specifically working with children programs, so looking after their schooling when they've been taken away from home, working with orphanage institutions on the ground, working with medical aid institutions on the ground. And the main benefit of working with, let's say, an established foundation like the one from UBS is, of course, that they do their due diligence in terms of what is the work that these organizations are doing, how much of the money is actually being used, and you can have trust that the money that you donate is actually doing what you want to do with it.
I commend you on your effort. Big kudos. And I'm very proud to be able to share a platform, that being Skids and Giggles, to allow you to create these efforts. So, on a lighter note, actually, maybe just a brief summary. What is the rough spec of your bike and like frame size and these things, just to catch the attention of someone who might be interested?
Well, it's obviously a very, if you're a lucky punter, you can obviously for 5 francs you can get yourself a pretty decent bike pretty quickly, which obviously in the current market is a bit of a challenge. So, without diving into too many details, so it's a size large frame. It is a Paiga slackline, which is an enduro category frame, I guess. That's what you call it these days. So it's designed for 160 millimeters of travel on the rear wheel and 170 millimeters of travel on the front wheel. It is spec'd with a Fox 38 factory fork. It comes with Industry 9 wheels. It's got a more or less full Shimano XT drivetrain and 4-piston brakes. It's got an O-chain device. It's got pretty bougie Ingrid cranksets on it right now. So yeah, and our friends from Bike the World, so James Drew, he's thrown in a couple of things, fresh decals because he's always complaining about my ratty decals on the bike. Greg from Biroma Bikes, he's agreed to help out with a couple of things, at the very least with a pro level service, so the bike is in tip top shape whenever the person takes ownership of the bike. But I guess one important thing to clarify is, of course, just because you're not interested in the bike doesn't mean you shouldn't get involved with the ticket sales. I mean, there's obviously a number of things that we can do with the bike. If someone wins the bike that it's too big for, he's not actually interested in the bike, or it would be much too expensive to ship it wherever that person is. Because right now it's about half the tickets have been sold in Switzerland, and the other half has been sold elsewhere. Um, so yeah, but I've committed to ship the bike wherever the winner sits. I've committed to deliver it in tip top shape and not just a trashed piece of bike shop debris. And yeah, it obviously has a couple of very very good years ahead of itself. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think it sounds like a really well thought out spec.
Yeah, I mean, I've been riding and racing it for many many adventures and races over the last 2.5 years. So it's still in very good shape, and uh, and yeah, I hope it's an attractive proposition for someone that wants to buy the tickets because of the bike instead of the cause.
And I can definitely speak from its performance, especially from our latest endeavors. Pascal and I found ourselves in finale just a few weeks ago. My first time. Of course, Pascal's been there on numerous occasions, one of which actually he raced. And he got to show me a little bit. Classic trails, fantastic, unbelievable. But we did a little backcountry as well. And this really blew my mind.
What was your impressions of that? Riding a bit of backcountry.
Yeah, for me, the backcountry is where it's at. I mean, I've done some backcountry riding also in other territories, and it's also the same feeling. You're out there. Um, I mean, you're not completely alone, but you're not, butt up against the next guy. You're not lined up waiting for the trail to clear up. Um, you're riding on trails that are either lesser known or just lesser ridden, just because of maybe their remote location or nature. And therefore, the trails are, yeah, sometimes in a condition that not used to finding in places that are so close to cities or to known locations. Let's say, in comparison to the classic trails of Finale, you know, we are finding soft soil in the backcountry. We're finding a lot of green woods, green pastures. And this is my type of riding. I'm more of a soft soil rider. I know. I wouldn't say like it's a comparison between like one of these people who only rides when it's sunny and not when it's raining. It's more of just like I just kind of prefer the traction feel or the hookup or like even kind of where it slides. It's just different. Maybe I don't know. Maybe my hands get too tired on the classic trails. Maybe that's it. It's a little more
Could be, or
uncomfortable.
maybe you just forgot to change the tires again. Could be the
Oh,
shorties.
yeah, could be.
But yeah, no, it was a great day. Shout out to the guy Dennis and his Land Cruiser. It was a really cool day, and yeah, I think there was in the end there was a bit of a we had a bit of a hissy fit moment when we rode back to the hotel. What happened, Bryson?
I can't remember actually. I was pretty spent. Maybe you have a better recollection.
We had so we were riding back at the end of the day. It was about 6 o'clock. Big day of riding, and then
Big day.
coming back to the hotel, and at some stage Bryson mentioned I was like, yeah, I need some food right now. Otherwise, I'm just going to bed. And I was like, okay, it's probably not the smartest idea if you want to ride tomorrow. I was like, I don't care. I want to go to bed now. And I was like, well, it's 6 o'clock. Restaurants are all closed. And anyway, so after 10 minutes of back and forth, I could convince him that maybe, we just go for a shower. And by the time we had our shower done, then it was time to go have dinner, and then we could go to have some dinner. And in the end, the disaster could be averted. And we got to ride another day.
Thank you, Pascal. I also want to shout out. We saw Chris flying grizzly Vischer. That was fun to run into him. That was quite a coincidence, actually.
Yeah, exactly. You go to finale. You don't expect to see anyone because haven't told anyone or haven't made any plans to see anyone. First thing you do, you go for lunch, and then who you run into? A couple of your friends.
But yeah,
But it's always nice to see them, and it's always a good time, even if it was only a short ride. And but yeah, shout out to Chris.
that brings us to our last topic of the night. Pascal, we haven't talked in a while because you've been away.
I've been
Now,
away indeed.
yeah, and as you alluded to earlier with the bike raffle, you're on a secluded island, maybe a Jurassic island.
Yes, I was indeed. I was in Madeira. So 2 years after I gave myself a 40th birthday present of Trans Madeira, which is a 5-day enduro stage race on this little mountain bike paradise in the middle of the ocean. It finally worked out so that the calendar was clear enough, and I had enough holiday this year to actually make it work without impacting the family calendar too much. So yeah, I booked myself some tickets to fly over and enjoy a couple of days on the island.
So so you took your Paiga masterpiece and you participated in a 5-day stage racing event similar to BC Bike Race, basically, but enduro style.
Correct.
Yeah. Now you're over 40, so you're in the masters category.
That is correct.
And from my opinion, I mean, from the way I've seen you ride and like seeing previous results and just understanding how affluent you are with racing, I would have figured you're at the pointy end. But after a few days, I checked the standings and I actually didn't see your name, and I was a little bit surprised or confused, actually. Um, but before we get to that, actually, maybe what are some of the cool things you discovered? Because you've been to Madeira before.
I've been to Madeira
You
before,
did
indeed.
the EWS. Was it 100 or EWS?
The 100.
Yeah,
Yes, that was my first
and
my first ever EWS participation
oh,
at the time.
and so yeah, I mean, you've gained a little bit of knowledge and experience since your first time. You kind of had an idea what to expect, having done stage racing before, and so what's kind of like the first, let's say, day one and two. What were the highlights?
I mean, what you have to know about Madeira is that they pride themselves that they have usually 4 seasons in a day. So what that means, it's beautiful blue sky and sunny, nice and warm down on the beach. You have like gale force winds in the west. You have rain at the very top. You have fog. You have pretty much every shade of the weather in one day at some stage on the island. So actually, I traveled to Madeira a little bit early. So the race was starting on So check-in and shakedown was on Monday. I arrived on Saturday late. Collected all my stuff, put together my bike, went to the accommodation, and then Sunday I went just for a day of shuttling, a little bit of recon with Freeride Madeira. They were actually doing still shuttle tours, and I rode some spots that I haven't seen before in the West. Actually, pretty nice. Um, and then Monday was the first day, so there was registration. So you get your race kit, so like number plates, timing chips, swag bag. You do your registration, like all your medical stuff, and in the afternoon there was a group ride organized, so for everyone. So they put out a route from the very top of the island. So you start at around, what is it, 1,500 meters, and then they put together a route where you would sample a little bit of all the different terrain that the island has to offer on this side. So that was still in the east of the island. And so yeah, it was actually a very nice ride. It was for that it was mostly downhill. It was actually still quite a ride. So it was like 2.5 hours, and yeah, a couple cool trails, and yeah, fog and gale force wind at the top turned into um, drizzly rain into full on rain by an hour in, and then in the end it was nice and sunny, and you would drink a beer at the end at the beach in Mexico. So that was very nice. And then the race started on Tuesday, and it started with a bang of a day. So it was all told, I think 7 hours in the saddle, 7 stages. Um, Sometimes pretty long transfers, but again, a selection of the weather. So in the morning it was super cold, like only like 5-6 degrees at the top, windy, rain, fog, the whole deal. The wind on the first stage was so strong that in one section so I was riding on the right hand side of the trail, and it would blow me over to into the next rut on the trail, and then all the way into the bushes. And then with the bike, I'm like a 110 kilo unit, all kitted up. So you can imagine what kind of force that wind had. And also, just forget about jumping. There was a big tabletop jump on it, and there was marshals there, and just waving everyone down. Please don't jump. You're gonna get blown off the table and stuff like that. So that was quite something. But yeah, and then the rest of the stages, really some of the highlights of Madeira. I mean, I knew some of the trails on day one from the EWS 3 years ago. So Hole in One, for example, which was the Queen stage, I believe, 3 years ago. It's a pretty long stage, about 9 minutes. That was in the race from the top, and then another trail was also from the race. So it was a very good um, collection of trails. And also how they did the format this year, I guess they changed it a little bit over the years. It's the 6th edition of the race. So you would have one big shuttle uplift in the morning, and then you would ride, 4 or 5 stages. You would have a lunch feed station, ride another stage, or go directly to the shuttle, have another shuttle uplift for the rest of the afternoon, and then do the rest of the stages, and then that brings you all the way back to the finish. And so yeah, on the first day, that was kind of day, and everyone kind of underestimated a little bit the time it would take for the first 4 stages, and then what kind of was a bit of an interesting feature was that the feed station was at the top of a climb, and by the end, people were getting quite hangry. So by the time they actually arrived at the feed station, the people were just like wolfing down food, just grabbing everything from the buffet, and then getting ready for the next couple of stages again. all in all, a very cool day. It was a big day. Filthy steep climb towards the last stage. Last stage was also the stage where I crashed out of the race in 2019. I said hello to the rock that actually at the time pierced my knee pads and destroyed my kneecap. I got through it without problems this time, so that was good.
Redemption.
Redemption achieved. And yeah, so that was a really cool day. I had the benefit of staying in the Airbnb in Mexico for the first couple of days because the other feature of the race is that you stay in tents and then you travel basically with your tent. And the first couple of days, I just stayed in the Airbnb, so which was nice because the first night it was raining and windy and everyone was complaining about not being able to sleep. And I showed up in the morning like, you know, very relaxed and have a good night's sleep. So that was all good.
So it sounds like when you enter these kinds of things, you're like shoulder to shoulder, or I guess tip to tail with other racers, and they're all, everyone's going relatively same speed. I guess by the end of the day, you kind of like sorted yourselves out. Did you have kind of a good crew around you, all helping push and keeping the stoke real and everything?
Yeah, I mean that's obviously one of the challenging bits with enduro. But my experience after like maybe two or three stages, the kind of the pace between the different riders starts settling down, and then you kind of ride with people that are more or less the same speed, so there's no issues with passing and getting in each other's way, and then you have a good time on the on the liaison stages. So yeah, so I mean what they did at Trans Madeira, they started in reverse order. So the first day you started the highest start number, which was the M40 category. So the dad bods, including myself, started first, and then women, then men 30, then open, and yeah, and then that was it. So the fastest guys in the end. So that basically what they try to do is to minimize the spread between the riders, because the problem is if you let the fast guys start first, then the spread between the fastest and the slowest is massive at the end of the day, and that means in terms of logistics, keeping the stages open, having the timing people there, etc. That means a huge spread. Whereas if you go the other way around, then naturally almost the pack of racers gets much closer together.
Okay.
So the second day, so the first day they did it in reverse order of the number plates and the categories, and then the second day they did it in the reverse order of the ranking, of the overall ranking.
I see. So day two was in a different zone, or did you move across the island? What happened there?
Yes, this is a different zone. So first, so that's the feature of the race, right? Is that you kind of you explore all the corners of the island. So the first 2 days, first day, so first 2 days are in the east. The first day is around Mexico. The second day is around Funchal. And yeah, so different drop-off zones in the morning. Again, second day, start in the morning, wet, cold, windy, the whole deal. Even a lot more rain overnight than the day before. So that was quite something. Um, I was really happy I brought like my full raincoat and not just like a little windbreaker like a lot of other people, because you're just like wet to the bone from from the start in the morning, and that's just a long day. Um, yeah, I mean, second day, I got to start the race towards the end of the group rather than at the beginning. So I was, I think, after the first day, I was like an eighth in man 40. So not 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 at the fastest. I mean, there's Leo Kokkonen, who's the serial winner of Trans Madeira in the 40s category at least, if not also I think in the open category at some stage. I mean, he's quite out of reach. I think after the first day, he was already 3 minutes ahead of the second place in M40. But then the rest was pretty close together. Um, the Yeah, I mean, the second day also really cool tracks, very different from the first day, where the first day was a lot more. Morning was more like open, wide open forest. Like there was this natural park at the top, so it's very wide open kind of terrain into the forest, more like it's around here, too sandy towards the beach, too very rocky on the other side of the hill. So I mean, it's very diverse in a day, and then you go to the next day, and it's completely different altogether. It was a lot more wet um, on the second day. Also, a couple of stages that I knew, and then I guess one of the top three trails that I rode in the last, well, 42 years was the stage down to Porto da Cruz. I think it was stage 4, stage 5 on the day. Really, really cool. Very long. So it was like a 10, 11, 12-minute stage. Beautiful views if you took the time to have a look. Very rocky at the top into like the eucalyptus trees, banana plantations, and then almost all the way down to the beach. It was a really cool trail. And that also lunch spot right at the beach, always nice. And then shuttle back up to the top. And again, in the fog, in the rain. But then the next stage, I had bit of a freak accident in that something that has never happened to me is a first for myself as well. I dislocated my shoulder in the middle of the stage. Just a freak constellation of um, front wheel slipping and tucking a little bit, me holding against it, pushing into the compression, and then my left shoulder just popped out on the bike. And then, of course, from what's going on, I don't know, it hurts. I let myself fall on the trail, and then, of course, natural instinct is just to get back on the bike and try riding again, which I found out pretty quickly that didn't work. And so got off, started walking down the trail, and that was also not such a good idea because it started getting very slippy from the rain and it was steep. And after a couple of minutes, I gave up and just sat on the side of the trail. And the next rider stopped him and was like, "Hey, can you call the marshals?" Within a couple of minutes, marshals were there, got me out, and then got a very pleasant cheap ride out of the jungle. So it was like halfway up the mountain in Funchal, and so a 1 hour cheap ride with a dislocated shoulder over cheap roads, which is pretty high up on my pain scale. And then yeah, to the hospital and got it put back in, and that was it.
Okay.
Unfortunately, out of the race.
Is that your first time dislocating your shoulder?
Yep, that was the first time
Oh,
that ever
wow.
happened.
Okay. I haven't done that before. Actually, I haven't dislocated anything, but I always hear these stories about people like instantly like lifting their arm and twisting and popping it back in and just keep giving her.
Yeah,
But I mean, these are different folk, I guess, you know.
I guess so. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. That's for sure. But I guess to wrap up the injury update, the as far as dislocations go, I was pretty lucky. So I had just another consultation this morning with a shoulder specialist, and it appears that I should be able to get away without surgery. So there's not too much damage at all. So in that sense, pretty lucky in the grand scheme of things. Of course, I'm bummed to again crash out of a race in Madeira. So that's the second time, 2 out of 2. So the wife is not signing off on any races in Madeira anymore. Um, the the parts that I was in the race, it was absolutely phenomenal. The vibe was super cool. It's much smaller than some of the races that I have done in the past. It's only 130 odd racers. Of course, all the guys from Free Red Madeira, they're super involved. They're obviously very nice people. very cool people to hang out with. They love their island, they love their sport. They're so passionate about trail building and showing off the best of the island, etc. And that was just in everything they did in that week or in those couple of days that I was there. Um, it came through, and that is really the cool vibe of Trans Madeira.
So it's your second time in Madeira. Unfortunate. But what brought you back? Um, of course, there was a little bit of this redemption thing, but you entered a different format, not an enduro race per se, but a trans. Um, why did you decide to go back to Madeira for? Was it the trans itself, or
Yes, I wanted to do a trans adventure. I like the concept of a stage race or a multi-day adventure. It's obviously a much more relaxed atmosphere than at an EWS, which can, depending on where you go and who you hang out with, can be a bit intimidating. But yeah, it's all a little bit more relaxed. It's you get to ride a lot more. You get to see a lot more. You get to hang out with with the people from the island. You have a little bit more time to hang with with your fellow racers. So yeah, so that was really cool. And of course, again, the folks from Freeride who are organizing this event and who they have also organized EWS, but they're obviously trying to put the best foot forward in terms of showing the local culture, showing the local food, and showing the best places and showing the best trails and all that. And so that is really cool. That is really good. That's really what got me there. And I mean, it's the third time I was riding in Madeira. I did a day, but I was there on holiday once and did a day just myself, and then um, and yeah, every single time it was an experience, and the riding is very different than it is around here. I mean, it's just from the terrain, and also what they call the Madeiran ice is this mud. So they have this very, it's kind of a sand clay weird mixture that just when it gets wet or a little bit humid, it's literally like ice, and there is no science to it. It's just you think you have a feeling that this is going to be grippy and it's not, and then you think like, oh no, this is going to be super slippery, and it's actually grippy, and you can never tell. So it's it keeps you on your toes, that's for sure.
so maybe not another race in your future, but you would definitely look forward to going back just for riding.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Um, the I mean, the cool thing about Madeira is, without making this too much of a um, an advertisement for Visit Madeira, but it's what the cool thing is that everything is on relatively small space, right? So the island is, what is it, 20 by 50 kilometers. You get from one end to the other in 2 hours in the car. Um, and it's so diverse on such a small area, and that's what makes it so great. And again, um, all the shuttle companies are investing a lot in trail building. They have their own trails that they maintain. They're are raising funds to build new trails. They're working with the government to get access to more terrain that they can build more trails, etc. Right? Because this mountain bike economy, they can't grow or live or exist if they don't have actual space for everyone that wants to ride there. And just as a data point, right? So I mean, first time I was in Madeira was 2017, and at the time there was only one or two shuttle companies, and when I went there in 2019, there were already four or five, and now again, another couple of years later, now there's I think over 10 shuttle companies that are operating on the island, and everyone is kind of working on the trails, building their own trails, and kind of trying to develop this mountain bike economy.
I myself have also ridden in Madeira, and I can definitely say that island does have some sort of magic. Thanks for the recap, Pascal. It's a really interesting story you have on your trials and tribulations of racing. almost like the drama that I create when I go on mountain bike rides with you.
Oh well, I know everyone is super stoked to hear about middle-aged men racing their brains out, and not getting very far with it. But it's I think we tried to recap a little bit what the race is like, and why are we doing these things. I have absolutely no illusion that my speed is not up with the fastest guys out there. But yeah, it was a great experience despite the accident. I guess at this stage, I also want to say thank you again to the guys from Trans Madeira, the medical crew who really looked after me very well. I mean, I was down from the mountain in the hospital, 2 X-rays done, shoulder back in within 90 minutes of it happening. They organized a hotel for me so I could actually sleep properly with a dislocated shoulder or formerly dislocated shoulder. They helped me organize my flights. They organized like my bike bags and stuff back. So all within a couple of hours. So that was really, really cool. And I'm really thankful for all of this. But before we let you guys go, we just want to say a few words about our social and where you guys can find more info about the Skids and Giggles podcast. And of course, my little fundraiser, A Bike for Ukraine. We're currently most active on our Instagram, where you can skid right into our DMs and follow along at Skids and Giggles. And you can find our website with all the relevant links and info under the URL skidsandgiggles.com. Also, if you guys like what we're doing and want to know what's up, just give us a follow on Spotify. Hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever else you listen to great podcasts. Finally, if you like what we're doing, or an episode in particular, why don't you share it with your riding buddies? It helps us grow our show and reach more cool people like you. With that, we say adios. Thank you very much, and
Ta-ta for now.